Now we're looking at this. So, Monday, and what we don't finish today, we'll talk about tomorrow, because I knew us going over independent reading, quizzes, civil disobedience, all that stuff was going to take some time. What we don't finish today, we'll talk about tomorrow. But Monday, you have your TWA for the Catcher in the Rye, same prompt that's in course syllabus, just put it in like AP exam format. I'm treating this just like we did with Tuesdays. So you have a whole bunch of space here, you got a whole bunch of space on the back. You can have notes on here, outlined just like you did for your DRQ. You can do that with this one. When you took your test for Heart of Darkness, I came around and collected books from you. I'm going to do the same thing while you're taking your TWA. So you can't use your book while you're doing the essay, and you're under no obligation. I have zero expectation that you will have direct quotes in your essay. You can have specific details. But I'm not requiring you to have specific quotes. If there are quotes that you want to write down, though, on this sheet, because you think they would tie in nicely to your essay, you can certainly do that. I still put the page numbers, whatever, page 56, 117, but you're not going to lose points because you didn't have two quotes and a third cited reference in your body paragraphs, the way that we were doing for the Grapes of Wrath essays. But there is the expectation, and we'll certainly go over this today and tomorrow, that you would have specific details. So if Duncan writes about, Holden is very depressed and people annoy him, and that's as specific as he gets, there's going to be a problem there because he's not getting details of how to know that. You could be half breathing in here the last 3 weeks and know that Holden gets upset and thinks people are lousy and all that kind of stuff. So, prompt we have up here, take a look at it. We'll see what parts cause any issues for us, if any. Maybe we'll take a look at it and go, I know what I'm doing, no problems. One definition of madness is mental delusion or the eccentric behavior arising from it, but Emily Dickinson, Mr. Kern's least favorite poet of all time, wrote, much madness is divine sense to a discerning eye. Novelists and playwrights have often seen madness with a discerning eye. J.D. Salinger's no different. As Holden Caulfield's apparent madness or irrational behavior plays an important role in the novel's development. Write a well-organized essay rationalizing how Holden's delusion or eccentric behavior may or may not be judged reasonable. Explain the significance of the madness to a work as a whole. Ray already has his bottom lip sticking out. Sadness. Or he's thinking how cold it will be at football games.
I wasn't thinking about that, but now.
Well, now you are.
So by the eccentric behavior, you mean I don't want to say this word, but quirkiness is like the way he
Yeah. I mean this. So his you could call it his maddening behavior. The idea that it could range from him talking to Allie. It could be hiring a prostitute, flunking out of school, punching out windows, behavior that most would consider not to be normal. What you have to decide, and this is certainly going to be the DRQ element, and I don't care what position you take with it as long as you support it, is can it be rationalized? Can it be considered reasonable? If you were to go, it's reasonable, that doesn't mean you're endorsing it, and everyone should start punching out windows and things like that, but that based on whatever circumstances you decide to cover, it's reasonable to see why he would do those things. Conversely, you could go, no, I don't care what's going on in someone's life. There's no reason why he should be doing this, at which point you go, it's not reasonable. But yeah, one of the first things you have to decide is, this is quirky behaviors. Could be thoughts, could be words, could be actions. Can you justify it? Can you understand it? Does it make sense?
Yeah. Should that be like a yes, it's reasonable or no, it's not? Like for some of the other ones, we've kind of had the in between. Should this one be yes or no?
I mean, you could ultimately, yes, you would want to decide is it reasonable or not. You could do a qualifier in the sense of normally this behavior would not be considered to be reasonable, but in Holden's case, it is due to citing death of Allie or other circumstances that are going on. So if you justify the behavior, that's not you going, it's okay to smoke, it's okay to drink, it's okay to flunk out of school, sleep tight, you morons, and walk out. It's one way to have an impact on TWA, Slam it down, see you later, crumb bomb, and just walk on down the lunch. You wouldn't do that because then we would associate you with Sunny, and you don't want that there. Although Mitchell was wearing the green emoji. Some would say so. Okay. What else? Like initial reactions to good, bad, not sure.
Do we have to do anything with the Emily Dickinson one?
No, you don't. Because really, where does your, like literally what word, which sentence kind of begins your responsibility, like within the prompt? Yeah, where it says write, that's where your job begins. So if you wanted to include Emily Dickinson like within your introduction or something in your conclusion as like a clinching statement, go back to this idea, you certainly could. But you are under no obligation to talk about Emily Dickinson, to use this. If Emerson starts this off as his attention grabber, quoting Emily Dickinson, I'm not going to write, wow, what a great poem to use for this prompt. You really came up with a great idea since he's taking it from the prompt. And I didn't mention this yesterday, and it's not that it was problematic for you folks with 7th period, but just a general statement with AP TWAs, AP exam. You don't want to get in the habit of restating the prompt anyway, because it does sound kind of generic after a while. It's acceptable, like when you did your Keystone constructive responses last year, but for this, you want to kind of start to get away from that. So I think 80%, maybe even higher, won't make any reference to that stuff. You're no obligation to have to do it. This is really where it begins. The role of the Emily Dickinson passage is just the kind of general concept, and now we're funneling it into what you have to do with the Catcher and the Rye. Zach Dickinson should include it. Yeah. He said he would.
So, what about the last sentence?
That's an important sentence.
Because we're answering the question. Also,
You could even argue in some ways you're not just answering one, but you're pretty much answering two. Judge it, and what is the significance to it? Which the part then that kind of confuses people, or not confuses, but makes them wonder, is how do I address both of these in, and that might be what Adele was going to talk about. What could end up being kind of complex and wordy? Not just the intro, but like the thesis statement. How do I do both of this stuff within a thesis statement? My simple answer is I wouldn't. I wouldn't write a thesis statement. I would write, two. And so I would pretty much go with a compound thesis. Where my first sentence, I'll answer the first part, how do I judge Holden's behavior? And again, whether you're for it or against it makes no difference. In agreement that it could be reasonable, or you don't think that it can be reasonable under any circumstances, makes no difference. The second one, after I judge it, then I would want to mention why that behavior is important to the work as a whole. Not to make this sound stupid or patronize you with a dumb question, Holden's behavior, who are you going to focus on? You're going to focus on Holden. Wow, thank you, Mr. Kane. I didn't understand that. That essay just got a whole lot easier. When you're doing the second part, you're going to, explain significance to whose purpose?
string. Salinger.
So you have a little bit of a shift taking place where at first you're starting with Holden. For that overall significance, this is now where you start to focus on Salinger and what his intent would be. The last time we talked about the Catcher in the Rye as a class, we did a soapstone. I would think a place that some folks might want to really take a look at would be audience, purpose, subject matter, because that would give you a better understanding of what is the intent, what's the significance of what Salinger's trying to do. So if you cannot justify Holden's behavior, that's fine. But you would still have to explain how Holden's behavior, even though it's unjustifiable, is still pertinent to what Salinger is trying to get across in his book. If you do agree with the behavior, you'll explain why it's significant. So in some ways, how would the book be different? How would the book not work if Holden wasn't in there? How would Salinger's purpose not come across? That would be a way that you'd be able to kind of look at it.
So it makes sense to do them in two different separate sections, like where I answer the first thesis and then answer the second one, or like.
Like you mean within the essay itself?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm thinking today, because we got like 6 minutes left, we won't get through it. Tomorrow we'll look at different ways that you could structure the essay to approach it. I could see you doing this in 2 body paragraphs. I could see you doing this in 3 body paragraphs. More. I would want you to have more than 1 body paragraph devoted to Holden's behavior. Like I wouldn't want you to go, he drinks too much, or he tries to drink too much, and that be the only behavior that you look at. I want you to at least get 2 body paragraphs with it. But yeah, you could address his behavior, rationalize it, or not. It's not reasonable. But then you still explain why that's important. Since I'm going with a compound thesis, and these might not necessarily really be in agreement, because the connotation for this one could be negative, I don't agree with it. The connotation of this one, you're still looking at why it would be significant. I think what that forces you to do is place a premium on a type of word that you want to start your second sentence with. Yeah, you want to make sure that you have an appropriate transition that's going to take you from that behavior to that. And you could even set it up in the first one. Despite Holden's irrational and unjustifiable behavior, it plays an important role in Salinger's purpose. If you end that second sentence with Salinger's purpose, your disgruntled English teacher will write a note in the margin going, what is Salinger's purpose? So you want to try to be as specific as you can, or as focused as you can, to identify, what is that purpose? Specify it. And again, that's where I think that soapstone ends up being useful for you, because that was giving us a variety of ideas that we could use. What else? So we know we want to go into structure, and things like that. Is there anything else about the way it's worded that causing some concern?
So when it says like may not be judged as reasonable when we're writing our paragraph, do we just want to focus on like the fact that it is not reasonable? So like if we think it's not reasonable, just explain why it's not reasonable.
Right. Pretty much, yeah. To decide if it's reasonable or not, that's where specific examples are going to come in. And it doesn't matter if you think behavior is reasonable or not. What are examples of his behavior that you could see some people going, that's not reasonable? What about it? Okay, so. What would be some other behaviors that would go potentially not reasonable?
Lucy.
What?
Did I say the wrong name?
Sunny.
Sunny. Sunny was the same person.
In 1942, Columbus set sail with Lucy to discover New Zealand. I wasn't sure if Lucy was Phoebe or Carl Luce. I mean, there were some possibilities that we had there. Yeah, I put Maurice with Sonny. What else?
Lucy was from the Golden Thread book.
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
They were.
Money spent. So what you're doing is you're setting yourself up with examples, and certainly we wouldn't be limited to these 4. I would say these 2 here are probably still kind of generic. Yeah, because Gray was saying about, bad with money, going through all his dough and stuff like that. So what are ways that he is spending too much of it? Borrowing money from Phoebe. You could look as being irrational. You're not going to take your sister's Christmas money just so you can not be home yet for a while. Certainly, he calls a lot of people phonies, or there are situations where he complains about people being phony. If you were to go into detail about one of those 2 situations, now it's getting to be very specific, the way that you folks are getting specific with the use of artifice.
Did you talk about
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you could, and this list could keep going on and on and on, and we're not going to come up with the top 30, things that he would be doing, but we want to be specific. So as opposed to saying destructive behaviors, which is going to be pretty general, the garage windows, Sonny Maurice, thinking about jumping out the window, that's going to be much more specific for our purposes. Jenna?
do we judge by the person that's writing it?
As to reasonable or not? By you writing it. So you could take you could be absolutely against it, even though you think other people would be for it, or vice versa.
So is it in first person?
I don't think that there shouldn't be the need to go, I think that his behavior is, if you write, Holden's behavior is reasonable, we're taking that to be your opinion.
Give like a first and you can like write the first person.
Yeah, if you're incorporating yourself into it, sure, yeah.
But just first looking and I couldn't think of like the desk you had. We'd say it was the desk.
As long as it goes with me, you wouldn't want to go his, the reasons why his behavior is not just because he drinks too much expense. Both of them, his attitudes, he spends too much money on alcohol, how you're that would be problematic.
Where is it?
Yeah, like probably.
What do you do? That was like, oh my god, mine.
Right. You too.